So we're here in Clovis, California, and we have an existing toilet that was set. I guess they redid floors a while back, and this one was reset. They're getting water down to the ceiling, so they've asked that I take this toilet off, take a look, and see if it's actually sealed correctly. As you can tell when you look at this, maybe not that you can tell, but you can see that looks like the one side, and even this side. Nothing was really pressed up against the bottom of the toilet bowl. This wax ring is supposed to smash down against that flange, which is this, and smash against the bottom of the bowl, and that creates a seal. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace the wax ring. At the same time up here, go ahead and replace that shutoff valve and supply line. Don't like those Quest tubing, they're cheap and they get old and brittle and they fail. And then go ahead and give them a new shutoff valve as well, just for future. It makes it easier to work on the toilet. So I'm going to get a couple wax rings in here. Get this toilet reset, flushed it a few times, make sure we don't get any water downstairs. Outside of that, we are done. So still here in Clovis, California, and we've got this existing toilet reset. We had water leaking down to the ceiling below. About a year ago they had the floors done and someone set these toilets. I showed you a picture of the wax ring. There wasn't enough wax in there. It was a flanged wax ring, but they needed another single on top of that to seal it. So there is some water damage to the subfloor. Beneath this, the plywood is pretty saturated. And the way that this works, if you look at the previous video, there is a large ABS, that's plastic black flange, that gets screwed to that floor with brass screws. Unfortunately, since you've got so much moisture there, those screws aren't really holding the flange to the floor as well as it should, or if at all. And the way that it works is the flange, if that were the flange, it gets screwed to the floor, and then the toilet with those bolts on both sides get bolted down to the flange. And the whole purpose of the flange being bolted to the floor is so that it doesn't pick up, which means if you screw it to the floor and you tighten this bowl down, if that flange is not screwed down, it starts lifting the flange up off the floor, which is a problem. So you've got that going on down here. It's not a quick fix. It's not an easy fix because the plywood would need to be replaced, which means the floor needs to come out. So long story is, toilet comes back out, tile floor gets demoed, plywood gets cut out, new plywood installed, new closet flange put in, new wax ring, all that. Tile floor goes back in. So it's a pretty big project, and I'd rather avoid that. The reason I'm saying is I could tell when I'm tightening the bolts down, once you get to a certain point of tightening these bolts down underneath those caps, the bowl itself starts tightening up down against the floor. Not only that, it smashes the wax between the flange and the bowl and it seals it, but you can feel it. You get to a point to where it's tight. Well, these bolts, as I tightened it down, kept tightening. So it feels like it's pulling the flange up. So I stopped tightening it. You shouldn't have any problems with it as far as leaking. Like I say, the long version is a very expensive project for one toilet. Short version is, this is the master toilet, so it's for, I would imagine, for adult use mainly. Just use it to sit on. If it's got any movement at all, like right now I can kind of wiggle it and there's just a tiny bit of movement, which is fine, but mainly just sit down on it. Don't bump it around, don't move it around. And then monitor downstairs, same place where you had the water leaking to the ceiling. Monitor that, make sure that it stays dry. Of course, everything up there has to dry out first, including the sheetrock and the framing members. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about that except time, or you could certainly cut the ceiling open and get it dried out and have someone come back and do a drywall repair. So that's as much as we can do. We did go ahead and give you a new shutoff valve, the new supply line that we talked about, the new wax rings. It's not an ideal situation, but it's the best we can do for today for the price quoted. It's just very expensive to replace floors, and so we're going to try and avoid that. Give me a holler if you have any questions about it. And then the one downstairs, we're going to leave it alone for right now because it doesn't appear to be moving around. If you are concerned about that one downstairs, we can certainly do it on another day. This one took a little bit longer than what I wanted. Ran into some trouble with this one. So if you, just for extra insurance, if you want to pull that one down there just to check and see you might have the same situation going on with the not having enough wax down there on that one. You should be able to see that one though. The reason being is since it's concrete and it should be fastened to the floor and concreted in. Normally, if it's not sealed correctly, you'll start to see water coming out from around the bowl right here. And I didn't see any water down there, so it looks pretty good. But monitor that one around the bottom of the bowl, the one downstairs. Just check it out. And if you start to get any water down there from the bowl, and you know, there's other liquids you can get down there too from mopping, or you know, if you have small children that you know are urinating on the floor, or you know, not just plain, but they get some on the floor, you know, get it wiped up. But if you have any water down there, let me know and we'll come back out and get that one replaced for you as well. Outside of that, we are done.